between two roses. Ooh. Today, I am especially privileged to be joined by the amazing Countess Lilia. I am Sir Eva von Danzig, and today we will be speaking with the fun-loving, absolutely fantastic Count Veniamin. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
As tradition, we start all interviews with the acknowledgement of the traditional landholders. So just one moment, please. Good nobles, we come here together in the spirit of fellowship, deepening of our skills, sharing of our knowledge, and the shared interest in the search to find truth through experimental archaeology and historical inquiry. It is in this context that I, Countess Lilia Bintazir, on behalf of my kingdom, acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we gather. We recognize their continuing connection to land and culture, and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present, emerging, and the elders from other communities that may have joined us here today. Thank you.
Excellent. Now, Count Veniamin, would you like to tell us how to pronounce your full name? Because I've been slightly presumptuous in not attempting it.
Veniamin Nafanovich Miedvednikogyotev.
Thank you.
See, it's easy. Otherwise, no, let's see. There have been variations to it. I think the best was Veniamin Nanowich Murdered Gopher.
Nice. Nice. So, Sir Veniamin, when did you join the SCA and what interested you enough to put your time and effort into playing?
So I joined in 1988. When I was in the Air Force. A bit before that, I was on the fencing team, and the people in my local fencing mini team were actually SCA. Didn't know anything about it at the time, didn't do anything about it, but when I got out and hit San Francisco, I was like, I should look this up. So I found where the local thing was, which was at the Round Table Pizza. Very, very, very classic clique. And there I met lots of really cool people, not the least of which was Juana, who at the time was Grunder Spitzenklappen. Now Juana Isabella de Montoya y Ramirez, who killed my father, prepared to die. And she was delightfully silly and apprised me that being silly was fine because it was a virtue. And that convinced me to come back to a second meeting and then a third, and then it went on from there. Fighting came later.
So if the fighting came later, what did you initially get into when you first joined the SCA?
I think my first my first event was an archery event, and that was very, very cool because I'd always loved that as a child, and Robin Hood in my past and all of that kind of good stuff. My first real inter-kingdom level event was in Ontier West War. West Ontier for those Westies. And I was a water bearer and Kyrgyz and was watching the fighting, and it was very, very interesting and like, oh, this is kind of cool. Maybe I'll try this at some point, but spent the entire war just doing that. And that was cool.
Amazing.
So my question is going slightly off what we normally ask. As a health professional, what did you think about it, like the fighting aspect back then when it was less regulated? Were you going, what are these people doing?
I was actually really surprised at the level of lack of injury. There's surprisingly little, dings and things like that, but nothing severe. I kind of expected a little more, having run into injuries at what I would consider lesser impact sports. Was surprisingly safe.
Yeah.
Well, until Norse stickball happened, and that was a different story.
It's one of those things of, at least in my experience, the worst injuries I've had have usually been from falling down. From the fighting itself. So you have resided or currently reside in a different kingdom to that which you reigned. And I know you visited Lochac. How many different kingdoms have you visited?
Visited.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Lochac, West Caid, Antir, Outlands, Atenveld, Artemisia, Middle, East Atlantia, Glenaben, Meridies. Are you counting? Because I've lost count at this point.
That's
a
10.
lot.
That's 10.
I think that's it. I think that's probably it.
You're like an ambassador. It's amazing.
And I suppose a tag-along question for that is how many have you lived in?
Truly lived as in residence, only 2, only the West and Atlantia.
Nice, excellent.
So I'm going to ask you about winning the Crown Tournament. Because when I first met you, you were many, many years ago. You were king over the Principality of Lochac, weren't you? Because you were
Yes.
king of the. So, and you hadn't been knighted long when you won, is that correct?
No, I got knighted in 95, January of 12th night of 95, so that would have been January. And then I won the next June crown.
Nice.
Was it what you expected it to be, being royal?
Oddly enough, in many ways, yes. But then actually being the royal, there was no. The reason I had my fellow squires and I had often said, well, I mean, I guess those of us, I think only Michael San and I reigned. But one of the gifts that Jade and James gave us, because I was squired to James first and then Jade to follow, was them being on thrones often enough for us to learn what that really meant, and ups and downs, and being actually behind the scenes. So there were a lot of things that were not surprises, but then actually being the person under the hat, a whole different ball game. Not the least of which the interesting phone calls you get. Because this was before, internet was just budding. So we were one of the first crowns to use email like at all to communicate back and forth, which was really good for Lochac. But you still got those 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Oh, Your Majesty.
Wait,
you want to be calling?
Now get when anyone bothers to call, that's really amazing, because I'm sure it was probably similar back then. But now, if somebody's calling instead of emailing, it's got to be for a really bad reason.
I did get one phone call where I redirected her to 911.
Oh my God!
Clearly, she called for whatever reason. She called me first.
Yeah,
she was safe. It was okay. But I'm like, this is good. Call 911 now. Call me back when everything's better.
Goodness. So what would you say was your favorite part about reigning, and one thing that surprised you?
Favorite part about reigning? Sort of a cheesy answer. Everybody. I mean, the populace itself. The best thing about reigning, awards to an extent. Awards of arms. I think some of my happiest moments were giving out award of arms. I've always thought of it, peerages are very, very cool, and they're significant, and being able to do a peerage ceremony is just delightful and fun and solemn at the same time. But awards of arms I always looked at as, I don't know, almost like the most treasured award that we have, because it's the one award that's only given out in general, only given out for us saying, hi, we've decided you're one of us. You're family now. you've embraced our ideal. And so I think it's really delightful. And I got to give awards of arms to a number of people, but particularly two of them, one in particular, were very fringe individuals who were actually participating very, very well, but not really participating in the mainstream portion of the event at all, and yet still helping out, hauling garbage, all this stuff like that, but like never even touched the Eric, never seen the Eric really.
Yeah. And what about a surprising thing?
Two things. Minor surprising thing is that people don't believe you when you're king and you explain to them that the shot that you threw wasn't magic, that there's really generic physics behind it, and you can do it too, punch another funny fellow. That was in Tasmania. The other surprising thing was that I started going into events and with the absolute expectation that everybody was going to be excellent. And everybody, like, in some fashion or form, everyone rose to the occasion. It was just brilliant. It was almost like the belief in it became active. That was surprising that it could have that much of effect. At which point I realized, as a crown, you can have a lot of effect, positive, negative, whatever. There's a ripple that follows from you.
Absolutely. I always have been told and like to perpetrate that the crown are the first servant of the kingdom. So, you serve a purpose, and with that great privilege comes huge responsibility. Because I know I've been there too. And it's funny because the only power that any peers or crown or baron and baroness have is the power that's granted to you by the populace. And so that's important to make sure that you protect that. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was probably what was surprising for me, was that there were moments where you'd be in a room and it's like nobody really knew you were there. But then there were other times where you try to give someone an award and they almost have a panic attack. So you go, oh, okay, this is heavy. Okay.
I guess another sort of surprising thing was the impact. The fealty oaths were normal. But when the final oath as the crown to the populace went in, it had a very strong effect, because it's the one oath, at least in the West, it's the one oath that's given that is a one-way street. You as the crown promise to support, protect, defend all couple thousand of you, and you need give nothing in return. And that really hit home.
It's beautiful.
So how did you choose your persona, Veniamin?
Almost accidentally, and then everything sort of fell into place around that. Approaching my knighting, I was pretty much Ben of Clendara, which is San Francisco. And there was a lot of hemming and hawing and procrastination around things like names and devices and things like that. And at one point, was like, we need to come up with a name. You need a real name. And I looked at it as, okay, well, if I was born in medieval times, what my name would be. So I was named Ben after my grandfather, Veniamin, which the Russian for that was Veniamin. My father's name was Nat, from the Hebrew Natan, which in Russian is Nafan, so Nafanovich, son of Nat. And I had a nickname of Bear Claw for a very long time, so much that it was a license plate, because I gave up after a number of people from different vocations called me that. And Bear Claw became Medvednik Kogitev, which is technically Paw of the Honey Eater. Oh, look, you're blushing.
I don't know.
I get a score. I get the first point.
Is that what shows your heraldry with the sort of claw-looking eyes?
That's very Bathory-like, though, isn't it?
I was sitting. Whose house was it? Ellis's house. There was a big herald meeting, and Fleeg and I, Master Frederick of Holland. Fleeg and I were going over various different things and going through the ordinary, and like, we can't do that. And it kind of grew out of, we were talking about the wolf's teeth, because wolves are cool, but I had just been talking to somebody who was Native American Bear Clan, and they're healers. And I thought that was cool too. And he was like, well, there's this thing called a bear club, but we don't really use it. I'm like, but it's a continental thing, sort of a German thing. And I'm like, okay. And he showed it to me. And so we tried to call it something, 3 piles in arched issuing from Dexter Argent, but it eventually never went anywhere. So I just kept using it. And heralds out there will hate me for this. No, I won't say it. Okay.
Do it.
there was this John Theophilus the Baptist, Sir John. There was a pamphlet that used to go around called the Papal Bull, and he had one copy of it, and it had this thing called the concept of unheraldry. The concept of unheraldry was, if the College of Heralds will not pass your arms for you, then they won't pass your arms. But if you end up using your arms, then they become your heraldry, and they're not going to get passed for anybody else either. And my ultimate goal was to actually make it valid, and I still would like to figure out a way to make it for real. So now it's just the middle section of the wolf's teeth. But that was the way the heralds decided to bestow it upon me right after I became crown prince. And I discovered it was very simple. It's a fantastic fighter arms, because it's, but there's a lovely Lochac story since you're over in Lochac. So I was over there signing scrolls, and out of the mouths of the innocent often comes humor. So the scribe was over my shoulder, and I was signing my scrolls with a big V for Veniamin, and then throwing my arms on the end of it. Well, I don't have a pen to write it down. So if you do a big V and then do my arms on the side of it, it looks like a side view. I didn't know at the time until the scribe looking over my shoulder went, "It's the Sydney Opera House." I'm like, what? He's like, look at it. He's like, yep, it's a side view of the Sydney Opera House. Everything comes together for a reason.
You need to look up the arms of the Elizabeth Bathory. Hers
cool.
are very similar to yours, and they're the teeth of a dragon. So
very nice. That works even better.
Yeah, so you can use that the next time you talk to the heralds, that it was actually.
I will look into that. But they did find a friend of mine, acquaintance of mine, SEA, found, I think might have been Belgium, or I think it was in Germany, found extant those arms on a shield somewhere, period-wise, and then promptly forgot where it was, and etc. And never been able to find it again. Do know it's there somewhere. No, the heralds do an amazing job trying to figure out all the things, and I figure that they get lots of grace for the fact that with so many people playing over so many years, that they have to pass because it follows the rules, probably a number of arms that they look at and aesthetically just probably would prefer not to, but it works and that's what they want, so it's okay. So they have to put up with that.
So I want to talk to you about how you're connected to Lochac, because we have stated in our interview previously you're the King of the West, and that there's a couple of people in Lochac that you're very, very close to. So how did that come about, that you took some squires and from our lands when you live over in the States?
So a number of people had come over to the West via Jade. For those who remember, Jade was the crown that changed Lochac from viceroy to a crown principality to an actual principality. And so he was very close. So a number of people came and visited him. And then at one point, he's, was it, did I go before Purgatorio? No, I think it was when the Purgatorio was over in Lochac. Jaden just entices you must go, you have to go. So we all went, and it was wonderful. It was I don't know, I felt like an interloper, even though I was very happy. I was, in addition to the wonderful event, I was victorious in the Queen's Champions tourney. It was the first tourney I'd ever won. And I got to give John of Skye a really hard time because there were actually two more people in that tournament than were in his crowns. But the semifinals to finals was myself, Sir Cornelius, and Sir Gregory Laxwan, which started my friendship with Cornelius and my long-term friendship with Gregory. So then we visited them back and forth a few times. And one of the people that I connected with just on a bud dude level was Brucey of Dragonvale, affectionately known as Weeb, because there was a bigger Brucey, so he was the Weeb Brucey. And we had a blast a number of times. We were kind of like, well, all the big boys were doing their things, we were having fun over here, being cheeky and snarky. And at one point he was visiting the United States. And after being, I think it was after Appenzic, and after being many, many years playing and doing heavy at Appenzic, but primarily archery at home, he decided that he wants to do the heavy thing a little more, and maybe become a squire, pursue this whole knighthood thing. But he's trying to figure out how he would do it, who to work with. And we were talking about it for a while, and ultimately he decided, what about you? I'm like, well, I'm kind of in the United States. Like, but on the other hand, you've got years of martial arts behind you. So a lot of verbal stuff probably work. And I visit occasionally, you visit here occasionally. You could probably work something out. And then in his most normal manner, he came up with a list of questions, probably a good 20. Justifying or not justifying our decision to do this amazingly long distance relationship. And it all worked out. And so that went from there. And then from that, from meeting him, I met one of his best friends, sadly passed away. I don't know if you remember Baz. You remember Baz, I know. And eventually that became the next squire from Lochac. And it's the only thing I wish is that I had more money and time to travel more so that I could spend more time. And hopefully in the future that will happen.
Yeah. I think there'll be a lot of people doing a lot of traveling once the borders open up. Baroness Anne would like to know if you still love tea and crumpets.
Absolutely. I'm a sucker. What can I say? Yes, they were wonderful. Thank you.
Do you have other squires?
Yes. One of them is absurdly active and had the audacity. I don't know where we find people like this. I don't know why I squired him in the first place, to become a duke before me. So that'd be Reinmar Wolfkeeper. He's currently in Artemisia, originally a Westie too. And that was another long distance relationship. We had met in the crown that I had won. We had a mass weapon fight. We were both using unfamiliar weapons at the time, and fourth round, and he hit me and I took it and fell. And the marshals said it was flat. And I'm like, all I know is the impact. And Reimar's like, no, we'll fight it over. It's just flat. And it's like, I have this falchion. It's 4 inches wide. You know, they couldn't have missed it. So we went back and forth a couple times going, no, you do. No, very much Chippendale. And eventually we ended up refighting it and I won. We found out later, someone was videoing, I think, that it was amazingly flat. So I felt better about it. And he was like, well, of course I'm better. And so we both decided that, you know, neither of us really care about this whole winning thing. We care about winning right. And that kind of led to more relationships. And at a event out in Battle Mountain, when I was, it was Crown Prince. So Obadiah was king. We'd met out there, and he was getting ready to leave Kingdom to go to Artemisia. And like, oh, it's a shame, you know, we're getting along so well. You know, he's like, yeah, you know, if I was staying any longer, you know, I was considering of asking the squire. I'm like, well, you're not that far away. And you've been fighting longer than me, so it's mostly a head game at this point for you. He said, okay, well, sure, we'll try it. So that became the next long distance squire, which clearly worked out well. And I have the other squires. Raven in Santa Cruz has been less active over past years, but doing lots of wonderful other stuff. And we still maintain Esquire, and we're still best of friends, just living too far apart at this point. Storm of the West, which is actually, I don't know if you ever passed that, but it's a actual legal name. So
great.
We found documentation. So Storm again also went and pursued more education and dropped out of the SCA for a while, and so that's been going well. So not really so much worried about that. So I think that was. I have one distant lost squire. Thomas was his name. Fantastic man. The most salt of the earth individual you'd ever want to meet. And easily, without looking at, one of the strongest men I have ever met. I mean, literal strength wise. He worked silver mines most of his life, and
wow.
And one of the most peaceful men, lovely guy. Don't get his back up, because it would only be for a righteous thing. And as I said, he was really strong. But at some point, he just sort of went away. I mean, he's still around. He's in Nevada somewhere, but he just, I guess, sort of stopped playing or something. But great guy. If he's ever out there, Thomas, we still love you.
The candle's still lit at the table for you to join us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to backtrack a little in the way back machine, because we've sort of missed a period of your history, because I've only had the privilege to really see video of your fighting, but I know you have quite a dynamic style. So what made you want to get into heavy combat, and tell us a little bit of what your training looked like before you were a knight?
Trying to think what made me get into it. Well, I'd enjoyed fencing, Olympic, and the influence of the SCA people who were doing that fencing. Well, needless to say, Everett, who was our armorer, used to take broken pieces and turn them into things like main gauches. And when we weren't playing officially, when we were just in our own little group, we did what I've come to know now was a whole lot more like SCA rapier. So that kind of like got me into that. And being in the West at the time, as you know full well, the West didn't have fencing for a long time. So, I was at the Bart practice, just visiting, checking it out, sort of. And I think Bart's one of the oldest practice, official practice.
Yeah.
In Berkeley. Well, and I think I was just watching it, and it just seemed like fun. And they had loaner gear, so tape on carpet armor and pick up a strap round shield and a stick and started whacking at people. And they whacked at me, and it was fun. And there were cool people around, Sir Hillary and Fleeg, and it was just a good group of people. And it's where I ended up meeting James, and James was like, looks like you got some talent. We should work on this. So my initial training regime was showing up at bar practice and learning the basics from people other than James. And James was always teaching me, we'd start with basics and then move on to something really cool, which I was not even close to being ready for yet. And if you're in this position, this is how you back hook a lefty. I'm like, what? So that went for a bit. And then I discovered mission practice, which was pretty much the jewel of practices almost in the SCA for a number of years. Since then, I've heard of a number of practices across the known world that are easily the match of that. And there's one north of here that's staggering. I want to go to it at some point. And so that really eventually started to go events and broader groups of people, and it became a lot of fun. So it was just amazingly fun. And for whatever reason, old stories of Knights of the Round Table and all of that really drew me as a kid. It all sort of fell into place, and I've done a lot of things in my life, both professionally and hobby and whatever, and pretty much every one of them I've taken to like a journeyman level. And then like, great, I've done this. Cool. What's next? Do this, and it fizzles. Fighting is the only thing that I've ever had the desire to master. And that drive just made me fight more. And then I eventually squired to James, and then my training became a little more official. And I got gear from him that was better than the loaner gear, but scary gear. Yeah, I started with a 39-inch, 1.5-inch sword, a 3/4-inch plywood heater banded with steel, and a helm that Duke Terence of Halliday made when he thought people were trying to kill him. It was an 8-gauge conical where the camail was a band of 10-gauge chain, 12-gauge chain, and the rest was 14.
Oh my gosh.
Fortunately, being a wrestler in my past, I have a really strong neck. I was allowed later to move on to more useful gear. But through James, I met Jade, and Jade was his squire before me, 7 years before me. There was this running difficulty because every time James would like meet somebody new and they were really cool, and he would finally go, okay, I'll finally, I gotta get around to it. I keep forgetting. I'll ask him the squire. And like that week, Jade would ask him. This happened like 5 times in a row. This is why I ended up getting squired by the ladies of the household, but that's besides the point.
There's a story.
That's another
there.
Story. So yeah, that's okay. Okay. So I show up at a bar practice. And I walk over to James, and James says, "Oh, great." And he's watching the fighting. He's like, Ginny wants to talk to you. Duchess Verena of Laurelin, Queen of the West 8 times, and wonderful, wonderful woman. So I went over, and she's standing there, lovely as always. And standing next to her is a really cute girl. And so I walk up to Ginny, and she says, "Hi, how you doing?" I'm like, "Hi, great. James said you want to talk to me?" She said, "Yeah. This is Marion, our head lady in waiting." I went, "Hi." And Marion went, "Kneel." I looked at Ginny, and she was smiling, so I knelt down. So if Ginny was happy, it was safe. So, and so Mary looks down and goes, "Are you single?" I'm like, "Yes." "Do you have a car?" "Yes." "Do you have a real job?" "Yes." Turns to Ginny and goes, "Okay, fine." Walks off. I'm like, "What?" And Ginny does me up. It's like, "Oh, what happened?" It's like, oh, go tell James. Yes. I'm like, "Okay." Up, 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 up. Go over to James. He's watching the fighting. Tap him on the shoulder. James, what? So, Ginny said to tell you yes. He's like, oh, great. Goes back to watching the fighting. Tap, 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 tap. James, what? Yes, what? Oh, do you want to be a squire? I'm like, sure. Okay, goes back to watching fighting. James, what? What? Squire? Oh, I guess we should talk. And that led the whole thing. But the women of the household were tired of doing all the work themselves and were like, 7 years since we had a squire, we're going to get this one before Jade does, which is kind of interesting because when James moved out of Kingdom, his last request as my knight was that my big brother take over my training. So I became Jade Squire anyway. So I guess the next level of training was primarily at mission practice, and probably the biggest influences on my training, obviously Jade, Robert of Woodsend, Sir Andrew Shea Forestborn was a massive influence on my fighting, especially in terms of the basics, and not the basics being just the basics, but actually learning the basics. And this is why you do this the way it does. And so that grew out of that, and I ended up, for whatever reason, having a knack for Jade's style of fighting. It worked for me, and I sort of became Jade's prove it boy for a little while because I kept running into people who were like, oh, wow, it's cool. I'm like, what? It's like, oh, we thought Jade could do that because he was Jade. I'm like, that's just technique. It's just fighting.
Yeah.
I was over at Purgatorio, and 3 different knights walk up to me and go, it's nice to know that that's trainable. I'm like, what? It's like, I don't know. You do this when he does that. So that went well. And so I just, so I started fighting in 89-ish, and then knighted in 95, but realistically, my knighting probably came about 2.5 years after I became serious about it. All the earlier time was sort of, playing and having fun, which is glorious and absolutely wonderful. And then at some point I decided, yeah, I really want to do this. And it sort of just clicked, and I started going to practices regularly and started going to tournaments regularly and really putting the time in and working at it. And once the commitment hit, it was about 2 years before I got knighted.
Awesome.
So I rambled way beyond your question.
Oh, no, that's got it.
I am going to dob you in because I went to Pennsic, my first Pennsic, and came back and told my husband that I wanted to do heavy fighting because of you.
Oh, because of me?
Because of you. Because I mentioned it to you when we were drinking one night, and you basically said, you live with what is the equivalent of a black belt in judo, and you have a lot of those people in your life. Why are you not utilizing this as a resource? It's very serious. And I went, shit. So I came home and I spoke to Bran about it, and he went, okay, cool, right? So during the 3 months of me freaking out that I was going to do it, he bought me a shield. And can you remember me calling you furious because I said I wanted a small shield and I wanted to be able to carry it, and he went and bought a period weight shield for me, but it was small. And I was like, fucking asshole. Done this. And you went very quiet and went, here's your husband. He wants to protect you. A period shield actually will disperse the blow, and you're less likely to jolt your skeleton. And I had nothing to add to the argument with my husband after talking to you. And I went, nobody explains that to a new person who has this plan. So how I've started looking at it is from a very Laurel point of view, because now I'm looking at technique, I'm looking at not getting hurt. I'm looking at why things are done a certain way. I'm not blindly going, yeah, that'll do. I'm kind of going, no. So I blame you that it is taking this long because I'm like, no, I'm an older woman. I am not going to get hurt.
Excellent.
It's all your fault.
That's
you
wonderful.
Do more classes.
It's good to be. I can get blamed for
So
that.
yes,
That's okay.
that is my armoring conversation with Veniamin that led me down the wrong path. Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to stories from it. Absolutely. Especially the first time you really sink a bruise on somebody.
Yeah.
Or cry. The first time I cry, I'm going to call you.
That's normal. It's fine.
Totally normal.
So you have fairly strong ties to Lochac when it comes to Pennsic as well, and Lilia probably knows more about this than I do. But what is, what draws you to the Lochac encampment at Pennsic?
Initially, I went to Pennsic, and I really didn't. The West wasn't really a presence at the time, Weeb and Gregory. Well, Gregory was going to Pennsic pretty much all the time. Weeb had gone out that year also, and it was like, hey, you guys are here, and can I hang out with you guys? So we get to actually hang out together since you're in the United States. And they were like, oh, sure. So at that time, I think, Weeb was recently my squire. So that was the excuse for allowing me, little Seppo that I am, to play in Lockhart Camp. And so between Weeb and Greg, I don't know if you remember, I knighted Greg. I got to knight Greg. I got to slap Greg. Which Matt loved. Anyway, the next year it was sort of the same thing, and then it just became, well, this is my time of year that I get to hang out with people I love, even like people I've never met who I end up I don't know, I clicked with Lochac and all the people from Lochac really easily. The connections were always really easy. Mentalities seemed very similar. You tolerated my crap and you gave me cider, which is just wonderful. So, I blame you for cider. It's like, and it grew from there. And it expanded in very, very silly ways from there, not the least of which is Captain Lochac, but that's okay.
You can't leave that hanging and not talk about it. But also it sounds like it's meant to be because your signature is the Sydney Opera House on its side, right?
Exactly. It was totally. I mean, if I had not come up with it, if I had not thought that way, going, oh, my calligraphy is just not up to my name. How can I do this? Well, people used to use their mark. I should make a mark. And my calligraphy is getting better. So it's still pathetic, but it's getting better. And this new move will actually facilitate that a lot. And I owe Mistress Rowan massive debt, and I will ultimately pay it off. So yeah, it's just so the Captain Lochac thing. So I have a really shabby kit in general. And I've been like, oh, maybe I'll get new armor. Oh, I'll do this thing, but not time to spend the money. I don't know. So my lovely lady wife got eventually fed up with me, and she went out to Pennsic that year first, and then I went out, and she calls me up on the phone. She's as I'm driving to Pennsic, she's like, oh, about an hour into the drive, she's like, there's this guy Torvalder. Didn't you tell me about him before? I'm like, yeah, Torvalder. Oh yeah. He's like, you like his stuff, right? Oh, I mean, there may be other people as good as him, but absolutely the best court boiler in the SCA. Man, it's fantastic. I've always wanted his stuff. She's like, oh, okay, cool, and dropped it. And so about I don't know, 2 hours later, I'm probably an hour from site, I start getting pictures on my phone from people in Lochac. She's one of them, wearing this interesting armor that's all red, white, and blue, sort of Captain America kind of kid, like that. And everybody in Lochac, I think, wears. So I ended up with about 27 pictures of people in this armor in various stages of dress or undress. And I get on site, and my wife has bought me this armor and said, "Here, now you don't have to look like crap." So I ended up with this full kit. I mean, half gone with arms. It's the full-on kit, and all in red, white, and blue. But interestingly enough, the way that he did it, it was American in terms of red, white, and blue, but not absolute. And if you know the Lochac arms, if anybody's looking at the Lochac seneschal up there, you can see the lovely, lovely red, white, and blue, and stars and everything like that. And it worked really well. And so I was wearing it, and everything was working well. And I needed something to wear underneath it, because I had not the loveliest gambeson, and I didn't have anything really sort of tunicky or whatever to wear. So like, hey, borrow one of these. So I borrowed one of the Lochac tabards, which is one of the little slightly more over a little more done ones, like shoulder to the and it fit perfectly underneath, but it also fleshed out everything. So there were now, shoulder pieces that had the arms and stuff like that all came together. And then somebody somewhere along the line was pointing me out on the field, and it's like, yeah, it's Captain America. No, it's Captain Lochac. And it's like, what? So then I went over to a kids' fete where the kids get to beat on people, and they all decided it was Captain Lochac, except for the kids who decided it was Captain America, but it's still Captain Lochac. So the following year, I bought one of the kids' plastic Norse helms, which were in vogue at the time, and managed to overlay the whole Norse thing onto the helm in red, white, and blue. And I had a Aussie flag sticker on this one and an NZ flag sticker on this one, and proceeded to just be Captain, and it's just gone from there, and it's immense amounts of fun and so easy to get spotted. And I become a massive target, which is actually lots of fun, because I definitely don't, with Pennsic sometimes, especially with the field battles, you can stand around for half an hour and never encounter anyone. Not so much the problem when you're blazing in red, white, and blue. Pikes, ballista, archery, everything.
Eve is renowned for her heraldry, and you'll need to tell him about your team that joined the heraldic tournament at festival, Eva.
This was maybe before the superhero garb was sort of in vogue, and I decided that I made a lot of stuff for heraldic melees for our unit, but then we never won. And so I went, and of course the heraldic melee in Lochac at Roni Festival, for those that don't know, is normally, it's not judged on prowess, it's judged on courtesy on the field and your heraldic display and field appearance, and prowess is tied into that. So
just interrupt you for a second. For those who don't know from other kingdoms, not that Lochac are clothes horses or anything like that, but their execution is phenomenal, and the heraldic melee produces some just gorgeous unit heraldry. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so one year I just decided that I went, you know what, I put a lot of work into our everyday stuff to make it look fantastic, but we're not winning, so I'm just going to do something really stupid. And I went, well, superheroes all have logos, and technically that's heraldry, so I'm going to just make a unit of superheroes. And so we did a Captain America, which was Duke Edward Steadfast, and he liked to say, well, it's more
excellent.
like Rico, because of course it's the single star with the stripes. So yeah, you must have been rocking that before he was, but we did win that year. I think we were called the League of Carnage. It was pretty amazing. I don't say so myself. But then what's been funny is when I've traveled, because I also went to West Antier War, and I got to see Sir Leototh in his Captain America kit, and Lord Stelios from Antier in his Black Panther harness. And I'm like, yay, I feel like I didn't start a trend.
Awesome.
I was definitely ahead of it. But you must be a trendsetter.
Exactly. Well, you're up there as royals, it's like it's the line from Henry V, we are the makers of fashion. Is it okay for me to do this? Sure.
So
people always wonder, like, you go to different kingdoms and it's like, well, why is this style so popular? You go to Outlet, Madus are very popular. For a long time in the West, bunny rounds were very popular. Why is this very popular? It's like, because the people win with them, and then people look at them and go, wow, that works, I should do it too.
That is so true. It's not always for the best.
No. Yes, no, you're definitely not a buckler fighter. You should get a big shield.
So what's one of your favorite Lochac at Pennsic stories? I love all the faces. I'm blissfully ignorant, so this is great for me.
Good thing you weren't drinking at the time. Oh, I don't know. Let's see. There was the birthday spanking in Heck, which was a subdivision of Hell at the Hell Party. No. Oh, okay. Having nothing to do effectively with me, except that I was there. One year, one of the Swedes had come to visit. His name was Magnus, I'm pretty sure, and he was one of the two largest living twins. He was 7'3" or 7'6". I think 7'3". Huge.
Damn.
And the two good stories that came out of Magnus, one was we had gone to the Mardi Gras party, and we had left the Mardi Gras party, and we were standing in the crossroads there, and we were looking around going, okay, where should we go next? And there was some drumming over there and some drumming over there. And apparently he goes, we should go over there. There's some really pretty girls. And we're all looking around going, where are you looking? And he's looking in the direction of the drumming. But for us, there was just this wall of black fabric. And he's like, get over there. I'm like, we're looking at him like, triangulate. Oh, you can see over the wall. I understand now. Like, so that led to some really good dancing, which was good. But we'd had the West Kingdom party with the West Kingdom Viking luau party, which is always one of my favorite stories, just in general, is the Viking luau party in general. So they had done they were raising money, doing kartsats and hooters for charity. And one of the ladies who was doing shots from her cleavage was at, God, I think she's like 4'8" or so, maybe, like not clearly, like a good bit from 5 foot. Fantastic woman, but short. This is relevant because Magnus was part of the line, and everybody's going around doing things, stuff like that. And he gets down the line, he gets to her, she's the fifth one, he gets to her, and he is trying to, but he can't. So he kneels down and he sits down, and he still can't get short enough to actually drink the shot. It's getting very, very frustrating. She's trying to help him, and it's just getting bad, and the line is back down. Finally, he just huffs himself, and he stands up, grabs her by her hips, picks her up, drinks her, and puts her down. And the entire party stopped. But the Viking luau party is always good because it usually rains, and we never stop for the rain. So that's always good. And I think the first one, Jeffrey Scott always does something good. The first time he managed to marry a weed eater engine to a, we had an iron bartender party, bartender competition, and there are about 4 entrants. But he managed to marry a weed eater engine to a blender.
Yeah.
And disguise the entire thing. And all of a sudden, we're sitting there going, oh, what's he going to do? And it's like, and the blender goes off. And he's putting all the things in. He made mudslides. We're like, where do you do this stuff? And so
Don't they call that the booze?
remember. Yes. I'm trying to remember. I thought of something. Oh, Pennsic wise. It'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. When it shows up again, I'll let you know. But it's all, there's great stories out of Pennsic. I had so yeah, this was Pennsic. The Queen I was Queen's champion at the time, and the Queen decided that she wanted me. We were doing, it was sort of a I think they called it the Ford battle. I don't know if they haven't done it for a while. They'd set up hay bales in the open field, and they were blue and red. So whoever had control of them at different times gained points, etc. And I was useless that day, both from injury and from activity. And but the Queen's like, you must go out. Like, I've got nothing to Your Majesty. She's like, I have absolute faith in you. Go. I'm like, and it kicked all the buttons, and I'm like, yes, Your Majesty. So I grabbed myself, and I'd broken my sword, so all I had was my my cutlass, my short sword. So I got this heavy short sword and my bunny round, which is really a useful kit for like mass war. And I go out there and I join the line. And this is not to pat myself on the back. This is just what happened. It was silly. Sometimes things like this happen. And I'm doing my best to be like sort of a sub commander and exhort our troops, and they're doing wonderfully. And at one point, we get past the hay bale, so I sat down. And I'm sitting on the hay bale, and there's all this fighting, and I'm like, oh, get them, yes, go, be fierce. And eventually they call a hold, and the dead clear. And when the dead clear, because I'm like defending myself, so the dead clear, the opposing line is about 3 steps away from me. I'm sitting on the hay bale. My line's about 5 steps that way. So it's just me on the hay bale, right? So what am I going to do? And I remember this old story of Sir Andrew, and it might have been Sir Stephen of Beckenham. Andrew can correct me on this one. But they were at, I think it was the West Frontier War, and they were like, we have to, or Administrator, we have to hold these unit off. It's a big unit that's coming down, like 20 guys. And so they just sort of went back and let the sun glint off their white belts and stood there going, yeah, I think we'll do that now. We'll do that. And the line sort of stopped. And for about 10 minutes, these 20 guys just sort of went, I don't know, you want to go get them? No, you get them. I'm not going to get them. You get them. So and they basically held them there for about 20 minutes, just going, pose, pose, talk, pose. So I'm like, great. Okay. So I sat back a little. I'm like, then I got this cocky attitude, sitting on that hay bale. I'm like, yeah, I can take y'all. No problem, whatever. So finally, like, some dude runs out of the line, and luck was with me that day. He's just come barreling forward, and I didn't come off the hay bale or get up or anything. I think I picked up his sword here and just like gacked him and killed him in the thud. I'm like, and I sat back, and then like 2 guys came forward and bang, 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 and I killed them too. Like 3 guys, and at that point, nothing, and they're just sitting there, and I'm just like, okay, who's next? Whatever. La, la, la. I'm so fierce. Terrible, 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 terrible. Finally, it dawned on them. I'm one dude. I got lucky a couple times with these guys, and that's about it. So finally, it's like, okay, form it, pulse charge now, charge. As soon as they do that, the guys behind me, unbeknownst to me, had come up with the same bright idea. So about the time that they reach me, that line hits here, and they get stopped. Door shuts right in front of me, and I'm still alive. Survived the whole battle. Like pure luck, pure unadulterated luck. Weird stuff happens.
Both Kiriel and Anne would like to know what your favorite story from festival is, from Roni Festival.
Oh, okay. Well, there's that one. Favorite story from festival. Well, there's a couple. So we will step away from the fact that either wildlife loves Americans or wildlife loves Veniamin, because my first festival, the red belly black, went under my tent. I guess the third festival I went to, I was the third guy to go to the woodpile. Bruce and Baz were there, and I'm like, hey, you know, be careful of the woodpile. There's a big red back there. They're like, no, there isn't. I'm like, yeah. It's like, we've been going there for 2 days. There's nothing there. I'm like, so we walk over to the woodpile, and being a little Boy Scout, I turn things over before sticking my hands underneath. And I turn this over, and I'm like, like that. They're like, redback? I'm like, nope, scorpion. They're like, what? So, I don't know. We've seen, it's just, I don't know. They like Americans. But like best festival stories, let's start with a tavern story and EBA. Evil Baron Elaine. One of my favorite people in existence. So they're at festival, and at some point, Elaine, and we, let's see, Elaine, Brucey, who else was with them? I can't remember who else was. They're over in the corner, and I wasn't behind the bar this time. I was just hanging out. And Bruce waves me over. And it's like, this is the first time I met Ellen. It's like, this is Baron Elaine, from a very good friend of mine, you know, just, exhorts him a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And Elaine says something to Bruce, and Bruce goes, hey, Elaine wants to check out your regalia. I'm like, oh, okay. So I take off my hat, you know, belt, chain, check it all out. Like, okay. He's like, okay, no, what are we gonna do? It's like, oh no, we're just gonna hang out here. You can go play. Okay. So I go out, and I think I've had Fabe, somebody's playing Tablero over here, and I went over here and just hung out with different people and met different people, and everything was great. Eventually, Weeb like waves me back. Like, oh great, I get my stuff back. So I go back there, and Elaine's saying, I'm still checking out your coronet. It's kind of cool. Who made it for you? So it says Reinmar. Oh yeah, okay. But put the rest of my knight's garb back on and go back out to tavern. Eventually, Weeb waves me back. I get my cornet back, and play in the tavern. And a little while later, things were chilling out. Go back over to hug up Bruce, and so I'm like, what was that? I mean, what did you think about my garb, my regalia and stuff like that? Do you know? He's like, oh, he didn't really care about your regalia. Like, what? Said, oh, he was just doing experiments. Like, what experiment? He said, well, we took all your regalia off, and we said, okay, how about we just send him out into the tavern with just an American accent and see what happens. And then we'll put a knight's belt on him and see, okay, an American accent plus a knight's belt, and see what happens. And then we'll put a coronet on his head. It was just Elaine sitting there doing a social experiment of how people, ladies particularly, respond to the various different aspects of things. Like, oh, great. I'm a guinea pig. I love you too. What was the other festival? Oh, so not that festival, another one. So we go out, and they're doing the field battles, and for whatever reason, I'm on the I ended up on the side across from Brucey, Sir Brucey, and the rest of that whole, sorry, the brain is sideways. So we're on the flip side, and we're running around, and Baz was being active at the time. And so I had Weeb and Baz and myself, and, you know, I'm just running around because I've got my bunny around because I can't travel with bigger shields and whatever. So I'm being very useful as a mobile police for them. You know, it's like, because they're getting shot at by other archers, and I'm sitting there going, oh, no. Heavy runs up, kill the heavy. That's my job. So I've got Weeb is left-handed, Baz is right-handed. So Weeb is off my left shoulder and shooting around me over here, and Baz off my right shoulder shooting around me over here. Everything's great. And, you know, so it's like, so what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. Then like, so that the knight over there in red, and like I got the R of red out, and arrow's gone. And I'm like, oh, how about that the pikeman in the book? Okay, and yes, and I'm just sort of like, you know, mentioning things that I think are tactically good, and just arrows are flying and like taking out arms, legs for people. And at one point, it's all done. Baz, we're going back to thing and said, so how was the fighting? It's like, Baz just steps up and goes, Veniamin speaks, men die. I had my own artillery. It was great. It was like, okay, send the howitzer that way. And it's like, it was just calling shots and stuff like that. And both of them are so freaking deadly that it was just like, doink, 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 doink. Wow, disturbingly good.
I have a question specifically about the Lochac archery, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very different to any other kingdoms. Would you encourage people to come and play with our archers and heavies down here? Because you've experienced...
Absolutely. To not taking anything away from the combat archers in the SCA now at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. I miss the way archery was before for a couple of reasons. From the non-archery reason was we used to have lights, primarily on the West Coast. And light combatants could be as young as 12 years old with permission, with parental. So people from 12 to 16 could actually engage in the wars. And that was when you had the 15-foot rule and et cetera. No one ever got hurt for anything like that. And it was great. Brian of Bellatrix, the Duke Paul of Bellatrix's younger son, was a deadly archer before he was old enough to actually fight heavy. So that kind of went away, and it really kind of changed what it was to be a youth. Fortunately, youth combat has grown massively, especially, I mean, I got to give Atlantia, they're phenomenal youth combat. From a effectiveness standpoint, there is nothing like going against archery blunts in comparison to the archery that's out there now. Even the Balder blunts, they're a fraction of the speed. They're easier to see. There's no difference. There's no comparison. I'm actually impressed with the archers now, because the fact that they actually get kills on people who are facing them is amazing to me, because if you can see it, you should be able to do something about it. But the archery, as Lochac does it, as we used to do it with blunts and screen, really makes the battlefield three-dimensional. I mean, you cannot, at no point can you take your attention away from the battlefield, or you're going to get an arrow in the eye or the armpit, or the, if Weeb's out there, the inner thigh or the inner bicep. Because just killing somebody in the face is easy. And the other thing is that it's cool that we have heavy missile combatants, because they can get into the mix, which I would much rather see with like javelineers and stuff like that. Because bows still make me nervous on the field, because most bows are not it's not 1.25 inches at the end of their bows necessarily, you know, and blows sometimes break and whatever. And anytime you have shafts that split. Anyway, so I've gotten back to wearing screen. And the biggest reason that it went away initially, there were the people who wanted to do heavy archery, wanted to actually get into the mix, which was a driving force for it that way. And then there was confusion sometimes if inter-kingdom, one played this way, one played that way. But a lot of the driving force for it was heavies in this country who were honestly not interested enough or too lazy to put together really good screen. And so you would get to Ontir West War, and you would find the guy who showed up every war with the perf steel, and he would it's perforated steel, and he would cut you out a piece that sort of fit your helm, and you would beat it to your helm and cut your fingers on it and stuff like that, and eventually get it to work. And you could kind of see, and it was sort of like a closed face with no breathing, and no one liked it. And so everybody sort of hated it, but we sort of begrudgingly accepted it because it was cool to deal with the archery. When I went to Lochac the first time, I was like, oh, so this is how it's done. Because in Lochac, since it's been that way and the way it's been, is your heavy community completely embraced it and figured out ways to do archery screens so that it was not an impediment. You found really good hardware cloth, which, I mean, it's doing screen in Lochac is like wearing a fencing helmet, a fencing mask with slightly heavier, more space between mesh. I mean, it's easy to breathe, easy to see, no effort. And you guys do a beautiful job, most of you, of figuring out a piece to sort of fit your helm, and you trim it leather, it looks good, it doesn't take away from your kit. I think it was Eves that painted his so that it matched his arms and he looked terribly fierce on the field. Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's a whole nother dynamic. I totally encourage people to play against it. Gotta do it. Gotta do it.
So we are about 10 minutes over time. So unfortunately, we probably should let you go soon because I know it's late there. No. But was there anything that you wanted to say or talk about before we sign off that you haven't already touched on?
Not so much. Great to meet you. You have to cross swords someday. I don't know. Just in general, to encourage people to travel, go to other kingdoms, learn about other stuff. If you can make it to things like Penzik or Estrella or Festival, so that you actually hang out with people from other walks of life, so to speak, kingdom-wise, it's brilliant. You find so many differences. At the same time, you find incredible similarities because we all sort of come from the similar bent. That and believe. I think the one thing that I try to convince people of is believe in what we do and believe in the ideals, because this game is so much more than it just needs to be, if we let it. If Knights in Period had a lot of limitations, I like to think that William Marshall would have been even more a flower of chivalry if he didn't have to worry about economics and finances and real wars and successions and all kinds of things like this. And that, he had to do a number of things that we would not consider at all acceptable for a knight to do, but he was running a kingdom at the time. The survival was real. So I like to think that if you took those things away, that he would have been even more chivalric than he already was. And so we have the opportunity to be as idealistic as we can, and in most cases get rewarded for it. As you were saying before, the only power that there is in the SCA is what other people give us. The only awards we have are the ones that we continue to be worthy of. So, I mean, be courteous, be chivalric, excel in your honor, give grace as much as you can. There's no reason not to be idealistic. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Absolutely. I can't agree more.
Perfect. I'm
Thank you
going
so much
to
for
say
having
my
me.
farewell. Thank you, Count Veniamin. You are one of the most fun-loving feminists that I have ever come across, because I know that you support the females of our game very well. When you see your beautiful wife and lovely sons, tell them that I miss them and I hope to see them soon when I come overseas. And I'm looking forward to catching up with you in person again.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm so glad I finally had the privilege to meet you after hearing so many stories. And for those of you watching, I think our next episode will be next Friday evening. If you're in Australia, it'll be a very graceful gathering. Myself and Duchess Altani will be interviewing Duchess Constantia. So,
ooh.
Yeah, amazing. I know we'll have at least one person watching. So thank you for joining us, and please join us again here on Crown Between Two Roses. Good day, good night.
Cheers.